that means and what that looks like. So first of all, we want to define what health is, because we really need to know the meaning of health so that we can be able to relate to what a healthy body is and what a healthy mind is. So when we say health, the definition for health, we're saying that it's a state of complete wellness. Okay, so it's a state of complete wellness or a state of well-being without any injuries. And in say, aso say yapomudie mu na ye ehuna mo pe ana na say yadwun mu apomudie pe ana say ye atenka ye nya no apomudie ana. Sometimes, you know, social literature they separate all these different definitions and as a different categories of health. And you know, we want to take a minute and look at how, you know, all these aspects of our health components, you know, intertwine and how one affects the other. And what we're going to be looking for the most of the time is, you know, how does a healthy body affect your mind? How does your healthy mind affects your body as well? So we're going to be going to that. And before we go to the next slide, please don't forget that, you know, as when we talk about health, it is a state of complete physical, mental, social, and even emotional well-being. Into, you know, a very holistic, you know, it comprises of all the other aspects, you know, that we talk about: your physical health, your mental health, your social well-being, your spiritual health, and some other literature also add intellectual health. Into, we have different aspects of this. So it is not just the mere absence of disease. So you know, and sometimes it takes some of us by surprise. Say bia yen yare ye honam hwe nye yen yane ye hu say you apomodin there be. So won yare a eno enkyere say wo complete health. And not just a complete apomodin. Until we want to take a minute and then want to look at that as well. Okay, so what comes first? Is it the chicken or the egg? Is it our physical health that we need to prioritize, or our mental health that we need to prioritize? Now, you know, during research, I realized that these two are interchangeably, you know, affect one another significantly. And it is a yeshe yahunemuni yapomudia. Yet to me, who is say it to me affect ya dream, our state of mind, and also our mental health. And unti a very, very important to say, yet to me, I'll talk more on that later. But say, Usha, Nientia, ye can't say a intertwine, no, and then they say, Uhunemu, enya wodea, enya wofanya, unia pomodea. To me, who say to me affect mental health, and so. It is difficult to separate the two. Eya den say, ubetimia separated two no completely say, me wo apomodien wo me honemu. Nenso mini apomodien ewo madwimu. Ana say me wo apomodien ewo madwimu. Nenso mini apomodien wo me honemu. Those two are very close, interconnected. Inti no say, unsa honemu to chimaka krebi pa. You know, if you observe closely, you realize that it affects the way you think. It affects the way, you know, you even process, and even like affects how you are able to concentrate near the other. So it's very difficult to kind of just separate the two. You know, it's like you trying to answer the question, is it the chicken or the egg that came first? You know, and some would say, no, it started with the egg. And others will say, no, it started with the chicken because God created the chicken first before the chicken laid the egg. So there are so many different schools of thought on this. But tonight, I want us to pay attention to the critical aspect of how a healthy body, you know, affects our mind, and how a healthy mind affects our body. Okay, so with that said, we want to focus on wellness. Okay, so wellness, say a kind of wellness, we are saying that, you know, one is not necessarily important than the other. honam apomodin no eno ho ehia pi esene ya adwemu apomodin because mienu ni hina no ho hia ye papa eno nti no esese ye tumi ehwe say ye will have a holistic view say ye mfa ya adwen ni ya honden any ye energy and share one aspect of our health na ye njan kai ni hina because as we have already discussed, every aspect of our health is very, very important. And as we learn today, the goal is that we have to start looking holistically at wellness. Okay, and wellness comprises of, like I said before, your physical health, your mental health, your social well-being, your spiritual well-being, emotional well-being, and some people will add intellectual well-being. And it's very, very important that we focus on wellness. One aspect of our health, does not sneak up on us because we have left it untreated, we have left it without attention because it can catch up with us, sooner or later. Okay, so when we say we're focusing on well-being, what does it also mean? And why is it important for us to focus on well-being? Okay, so we are saying that our physical problems or physical health, which we have discovered, a poor body health, if you like, can significantly increase the risk of developing mental health. Say it has significant effect on our mental health. And I think mental health it to me it affects your physical health. Now sometimes mental health ye mu pia ye nyi wo Ghana no na ya adwene ye nse abodanfo a wo street no so a wo de omuti ho pesempese ni omotade ho flipoto na omonam kwa ho and you see them talking to themselves and all that. Sometimes that is the notion when we say mental health disorder, that is the notion that most of us have, especially if you're like me and you grew up in Ghana and we didn't really pay so much attention to mental health. The first image that comes to your mind when you hear of mental health, and you're down for me. But thanks be to God, they say we are enlightened. So see, and you say you can mental health, and yes, I'm profound na yeka. Ne mom no ne fa ya dwene mu yare anase nia affect ya dwene mu yare no eno ne your friend is mental health. When him say ye redie yi mu no ye wo hu yare, something like cancer, diabetes and stuff like that, it affects the body. Now, body is different from how the mind works, and we have some diseases too that affects the mind. And until say come mental health, and my dream and quite cheapy. No, bibi to say anxiety, ni depression, no ni na but then it manifests itself through the physical. You see another interconnectivity there. So it manifests itself through the physical. So in psychology, and I said a psychiatric way, and it said physiological manifestation of the disease. So we look at how the disease translates, and impacts how your body responds. I don't want to go too deep, but it has something to do with, the amygdala, like the hypochondria and all that, which the part of our brains that connects the emotion and then our executive functioning as well. So it has that connectivity. So, but we don't want to go into that. But the most important thing that you need to know, is our physical health, affects our body, and then our body health, and also affects, our mind or our mental